Now that most of us are back into the swing of things online, I wanted to stop by and share some encouragement with you as we discuss setting goals in the new year. We'll be looking at Joshua chapter 1, verse 16 today. This passage is about the Israelites and the very exciting point that they were in their history. They were ending the 40 years of wilderness wandering and heading towards the land that God had promised to give them. Finally, it was going to be theirs. And this part of their life may have also been a little bit scary for them because they had a lot of work to do. They had to fight all of the inhabitants in the land and drive them out completely. But it was also exciting because God had promised to fight for them every step of the way. Hopefully, you feel the same way about 2013. It will be a great year because God has promised to be with you and He has promised to lead you through it and accomplish His plan in it. I'm convinced that God has some amazing things in store for you in 2013 as we partner with Him. But in Joshua chapter 1, verse 16, we find that the Israelites are all gathered together to listen to their new leader, the man God had placed over them after Moses' death. And Joshua wanted to remind these people of everything God had commanded them and remind them of the task in front of them, that it was large, but God had a plan. They had a choice. They could do it their way or they could do it God's way. And we have the same choice. God has a plan for our future. He knows exactly what this year will bring and next year and the next 10 years. And He knows exactly how He plans to get us to where He wants us to be. Our choice is whether we will go our way or His way. Imagine if all the Israelites had tried to conquer the promised land in their own way. Imagine what it would have looked like to have one small group of people going off and conquering their own city over there and another group going over there and trying to conquer that. How would it have looked if everyone had done their own thing? It would have been chaos and nothing would have been accomplished. They would have been defeated and destroyed even before they began. They had to have a plan. Not just any plan, but God's plan. This was, after all, His idea in the first place. So as Joshua was talking to the people, he reminded them of God's plan and gave them the choice to either do it their way or God's way. The response of the people is amazing. Here's what they said in Joshua chapter 1, 16. Whatever you have commanded us, we will do. They declared that they would do what God commanded them to do through Joshua. All they wanted was for God to be with them. I think that should be our response in 2013 as well. And even the years to come. Our choice should be the same as the Israelites. We will do what God tells us to do. We want God to be with us. It's not about us doing our own thing and trying to achieve our own goals, but seeking to do what God wants us to do. You know, as long as God is on our side, we will be successful. As long as He is with us, we will be victorious. Our goal should be to seek and to follow God's plan. Perhaps you're wondering what God's plan is for you this year. Maybe you're wondering where God would lead you in your life in the years to come. Let me just give you 2 facts about God's plan for your life. First of all, when we examine the story of the Israelites, we find that God did not give them the battle plan for every battle they would face. He didn't even deliver the entire land into their hand all at once. We find that in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 22. They had to fight one battle at a time. They had to trust God for one victory at a time. And the same is true for us. God's not going to map out the next 10 years. We have to follow Him one step at a time. We should make it a daily goal to do exactly what we know God wants us to do that day. If that's our daily goal and our days of following God will turn into weeks of following God and years of following God, and eventually we will be following God our entire lives. The second thing we notice is that God told the Israelites what the outcome would be. If they followed God's daily plan for them one at a time, they would conquer the promised land. He had told them what the parameters would be. And He tells us what our outcome would be too. He tells us that His goal is to transform us into the image of Jesus Christ. If we follow God's daily plan day by day and week by week, then one day we will be transformed into the image of Jesus Christ. John chapter 3, verses 2 and 3 tell us this. Dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known. But we know that when He appears, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. Verse 3 says, all who have this hope in Him purify themselves just as He is pure. As we're setting goals for our future and planning out what 2013 should be, Make it your goal to follow God's plan. Make it your daily goal to do what God wants you to do moment by moment and day by day. And understand that God's ultimate goal is to transform you into the image of Jesus Christ. That should be our goal, to be transformed into the image of Jesus Christ as well. There's great power in agreeing with God's goal for our lives because God is a powerful God. As we enter 2013, let me remind you that I'm here to help you in any way that I can. If you need me in any way, just contact me. I'd be glad to pray with you, talk with you, discuss these things with you. But I trust that you have a wonderful new year as you set God's goals in your lives and watch Him accomplish them. Happy New Year.